Namaskar. A warm welcome to World News and Indian Perspective on All India Radio. This is Manoj Singh Rana, and with me is R.S. Raghu, bringing glimpses of major developments of the day from across the globe. Over the next half an hour, we shall bring you the latest from the world of politics, economy, sports, entertainment, and more. As the world fights the COVID-19 pandemic, we begin the program with a message of caution to stay safe and protected by following these 3 simple steps. Wear a face mask, maintain social distancing, and focus on hand and face hygiene. The headlines: Myanmar, Mauritius, Morocco and Seychelles receive India-made Covishield vaccine. Prime Minister Narendra Modi says world's largest vaccination drive underway in country is making India self-reliant. India crosses a significant milestone of vaccinating over 1 million healthcare workers. US to seek 5-year extension to new START arms control treaty with Russia. IFFI at Panaji to pay tribute to Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose on his 125th birth anniversary. And in cricket, Bangladesh defeats the West Indies in Dhaka to clinch the ODI series. India continues to forge ahead with its Neighbourhood First policy as it extends a steady shoulder of a friend in need to its partner countries. Myanmar, Mauritius, Morocco, Seychelles have received India-made Covishield vaccine on Friday. India will continue to supply COVID-19 vaccines to partner countries over the coming weeks and months in a phased manner. Addressing the media in New Delhi, External Affairs Ministry spokesman Anurag Srivastava said it will be ensured that domestic manufacturers have adequate stocks to meet domestic requirements while supplying abroad. Many countries have evinced interest in accessing vaccines from India, which is the global hub for vaccine production. The Prime Minister has already stated that India's vaccine production and delivery capacity would be used for the benefit of all humanity in fighting this crisis.
On the first day, 1.5 lakh doses of vaccines were supplied to Bhutan and 1 lakh doses to Maldives as grant assistance. Yesterday, we have supplied 10 lakh doses to Nepal and 20 lakh doses to Bangladesh. And today, consignments of 15 lakh doses for Myanmar, 1 lakh doses to Mauritius, and 50,000 doses to Seychelles have been airlifted. Supplies as grant assistance to Sri Lanka and Afghanistan will be undertaken after receiving confirmation of regulatory clearances from these 2 countries. Contractual supplies are being undertaken to Saudi Arabia, South Africa, Brazil, Morocco, Bangladesh and Myanmar. As of now, India will continue to supply COVID-19 vaccines to partner countries over the coming weeks and months in a phased manner. It will be ensured that domestic manufacturers will have adequate stocks to meet domestic requirements while supplying abroad.
Meanwhile, Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has thanked Prime Minister Narendra Modi for the gift of 2 million doses of COVID-19 vaccine to Bangladesh. President of Brazil, Jair Bolsonaro, thanked Prime Minister Narendra Modi for assisting them with the vaccines exports from India to Brazil. In a tweet, he said Brazil feels honoured to have a great partner to overcome a global obstacle by joining efforts. The African island nation of Mauritius holds a special place in the hearts and minds of India. Mauritius has played a prominent role in India's Indo-Pacific partnerships. The first consignment of Covishield vaccines arrived in Mauritius on Friday. Now we are in a conversation with High Commissioner of India to Seychelles, Mrs. Nandini Singla, sharing her thoughts on this heartening development. The first tranche of vaccines has arrived in Mauritius. Your first reactions, ma'am?
Today is a momentous day in the glorious relationship between India and Mauritius. It adds yet another great chapter to our unique, special and time-tested partnership. Mauritians are highly appreciative and grateful that Mauritius is one of only 7 priority partner countries of India which are receiving the vaccine in the first phase. And the fact that India has extended this humanitarian gesture barely a week after we started our own vaccination program for a population of 1.3 billion people is also seen as a telling testimony to the special affection and importance attached to Mauritius by India. It has also reinforced the message of India's altruism and India's image as a friend in need. reflecting India's ethos of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam and the importance we attach to our key partners under our Neighbourhood First policy. These are the very first vaccines to reach Mauritius, and the Honourable Prime Minister of Mauritius, Mr. Praveen Kumar Jugnauth himself will be at the airport along with the Cabinet of Ministers to receive the consignment. So there is a great sense of anticipation and optimism in Mauritius about the arrival of our vaccines, and it's being seen as a harbinger of hope that signals the beginning of the end of the worst pandemic in living memory.
Right. Ma'am, could you tell our listeners how Mauritius has dealt with the COVID challenge, and what is the sense that prevails in the nation now that vaccines are reaching?
I must commend the government of Mauritius and the people of Mauritius for their exceptional success in dealing with the pandemic. In fact, the whole of Mauritius, including the government, the people and the frontline workers, have done a commendable job of dealing with the unprecedented challenge posed by the COVID-19 pandemic. I think the strict measures taken by the government of Mauritius, including prompt and timely imposition of a lockdown, the closure of borders and adoption of a very strict sanitary procedure for incoming travelers, have made Mauritius one of the very few COVID-safe countries in the world today. And thanks to these measures, Mauritius is one of the few places in the world where we can congregate today for social gatherings and have a normal social life without any major disruptions. Although Mauritius is COVID safe, it did have to resort to the closure of borders, something that has adversely affected important sectors of the economy such as tourism and hospitality. The people of Mauritius are therefore eagerly looking forward to the reopening of borders and critical sectors of the economy so that economic growth can be revived, and our vaccines will play a key role in making this happen. I think the news of the arrival of vaccines from India has therefore brought a sense of optimism, and it's being seen as the first glimmer of light at the end of a seemingly long and dark tunnel.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for taking time out of your packed schedule on this important day to speak with us. So that was Mrs. Nandini K. Singla, High Commissioner of India to Mauritius, speaking exclusively to All India Radio.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said world's largest vaccination program is going on in our country, making it Atmanirbhar or self-reliant. Interacting with beneficiaries and vaccinators of the COVID-19 drive from Varanasi via video conferencing, the Prime Minister said it shows our self-reliance. Besides, India is providing COVID-19 vaccine to several other countries as well. The Prime Minister expressed pride at the development of 2 vaccines in the country to tackle coronavirus. India has crossed a significant milestone of vaccinating more than 1 million healthcare workers for coronavirus, with over 233,000 getting doses on Thursday alone. Data compiled by Oxford University shows that India is now the fastest country to breach the million mark of vaccinations, taking only 6 days compared to 9 by the United States.
The External Affairs Ministry today said that India is in touch with China for a crew change for 16 Indian sailors stranded on a cargo ship in Chinese waters for nearly 4 months. The ministry spokesperson Anurag Srivastava said the Indian embassy in Beijing is following up with both the shipping company as well as Chinese authorities to ensure the well-being of the crew. In reply to a question on the line of actual control, Mr. Srivastava said that India and China have agreed to hold the next round of the senior commander level meeting soon. The 2 sides are in close communication over diplomatic and military channels in this regard. On India's relation with the US in view of the new regime in that country, the spokesman said that India will continue to remain engaged at all levels. It will further consolidate the vibrant and multifaceted bilateral relations with the US and work together on global challenges of common interest. The World Health Organization, or WHO, has warned that Africa is in danger of being left behind in the rollout of COVID-19 vaccines. The statement comes in the wake of the fact that countries in other regions are striking bilateral deals, thus driving up prices of vaccines. Dr. Matshidiso Moeti, the WHO Regional Director for Africa, said that it is deeply unjust that the most vulnerable Africans are forced to wait for vaccines while lower-risk groups in rich countries are made safe. Meanwhile, the COVAX facility has committed to vaccinating at least 20% of the population in Africa by the end of this year. Dr. Matshidiso Moeti said that an initial 30 million vaccine doses are expected to begin arriving in countries by March.
The White House has said that US will seek a 5-year extension to the New START arms control treaty with Russia. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki said in a media briefing that the president has long been clear that the New START treaty is in the national security interests of the United States. She added that the extension makes even more sense when the relationship with Russia is adversarial as it is at this time. Meanwhile, Russia has welcomed the US President Joe Biden's decision to extend the New START arms control treaty. It said that Moscow wanted to see concrete proposals from Washington.
The ongoing 51st International Film Festival of India at Panaji will pay tribute to Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose on the occasion of his 125th birth anniversary on Saturday. More from our correspondent.
IFFI will pay tribute to the Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose on the occasion of his 125th birth anniversary tomorrow. In Netaji's honor, the film Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, The Forgotten Hero by Shyam Benegal will be screened during the festival. Netaji remains one of the most beloved national heroes and icon of the India's freedom struggle. In the meanwhile, young filmmaker Pramati Anand spoke about her film Jahat Aayi Basant. She said that there is something that holds back the previous generation of the women from supporting the next generation. The National School of Drama pass-out director has concentrated the lens on how the women internalize the dictums of a society and come to the terms with it. With the Mukesh Thali, Tushar Jadhav for AIR News, Panji, Goa.
This is All India Radio, giving you the news. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on Twitter at AIR News Alerts.
3 steps to stay protected and stay safe from COVID-19. Wear face mask, 2 gaz ki duri to maintain social distancing, maintain hand and face hygiene.
India has been among the first countries to establish diplomatic ties with the Federal Republic of Germany after the Second World War. Bilateral relations between the two countries are founded on common democratic principles marked by a high degree of trust and mutual respect. In an exclusive interview with AIR News, Walter J. Linder, the German ambassador to India, shared his insights on India-Germany relations. Let us listen to the interview.
Namaskar and welcome. Today we have with us Walter J. Linder, the German ambassador to India, to share his insights on India-Germany relations, which have grown manyfold over the years. Listeners may recall, India has been among the first countries to establish diplomatic ties with the Federal Republic of Germany after the Second World War. Bilateral relations between the two countries are founded on common democratic principles marked by a high degree of trust and mutual respect. Today, we will discuss and come to know more about it from the Ambassador of Germany to India, Walter J. Linder. Welcome to the show, Ambassador.
Atulji, it's good to be on your program. Thank you.
Listeners, Mr. Linder has been the Ambassador of Germany in India since April 2019. He entered diplomatic service in 1988 as attaché in the Legal Directorate General at the Federal Foreign Office in Bonn. Mr. Linder has served as a counselor at German Permanent Mission to United Nations in New York from 1998-2001. Before joining India, Mr. Linder was the State Secretary of the Federal Foreign Office from 2017 to 2019. He has also served as the representative of the German federal government for the Ebola crisis from 2014 to 2015. Add to it his credentials as a Federal Foreign Office spokesperson and a spokesman for the Foreign Minister from 2002 to 2006. Mr. Linder holds law degree with political science from the Ludwig Maximilians Universität in Munich. Ambassador Linder has yet another interesting fact as an avid music lover. Quite a feat for the head of Diplomatic Corps of Germany in India. Welcome to the show, Ambassador.
Thank you so much.
Ambassador Linder, India and Germany, they have been partners for quite some time, and the relationship has gathered momentum over the years. Be it the bilateral or be it the regional forums, both the countries have shown that there is a tremendous amount of convergence in terms of the ideas between the two countries. How do you look at the prospects of this relation in the years to come?
You see, it's true, we have a lot of convergences. We have a lot of common points to two countries. That's why we have a very strong link since many years, since decades. First, both of us are strong economic powers in their regions. We are the biggest economic power in the European Union, and India is a weight of its own. Then we are both democracies, and India is the biggest democracy on the planet. And then we are both federal states, so we know how to deal with federal separation of powers and these kind of things. And then we are states with a lot of cultural diversity within its borders. And then we are peace-loving countries, and we are in the United Nations among those who fight for the reform of the Security Council. So we have many complementary interests. And since decades or 200 years, there has been always a mystic interest in German side in India, from linguists, tourists, to seekers of spirituality. You know, all this has been big link, and nowadays it's interlinked in a very deep way with students and with technicians and with researchers. So it's a very deep running relationship.
The cultural connect and the people-to-people connect between the two countries, which we have seen over the years, Max Fuller being one of the leading proponents who translated the Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita into Sanskrit. In terms of the linguistic and cultural linkages, can you elaborate some more about how do we see this relationship expanding?
Well, as I said, there's a lot of attraction to Indian literature. You know, White Tiger, and there's so many books. I could even, the Suitable Boy, and so many books are bestsellers in Germany. So they know about it, and so it's not the same with many other countries, but the Indian literature, the Indian culture as such is so deep and so versatile that every German, I think, or most of the Germans want to come here and see it with their own eyes and want to travel it. They come here to see the incredible variety of treasures in this country. And that's the India I love, and I know since 50 years, the India of cultural diversity. This is something which is cultural tolerance and coexistence of these different cultures in one country. It's a continent. So this is a never-ending treasure. This is something very unique which you only find in India. This variety of enormous, it's an endless source of cultural heritage.
We are living in a world where we have been seeing the COVID claiming whole lots of lives. It has also cast its shadows on the global economy. How do you see the response of the countries and the global agencies like UN in this, and especially more so when you see the responses in India, in Germany, or other parts of the globe?
Yeah, this is a pandemic, not an epidemic, which is affecting almost every country in the world. I don't know even one continent. I think the other day I read it reached Antarctica. So it's everywhere. This is something new. Now, since we didn't have this kind of dimension before that, we all had to learn. We all had to see how to deal with it. We all had to learn, everyone in the world. So every country reacted in the beginning similarly, but according to its nation. Now, Prime Minister Modi on 19th or 20th March, he decided to have a massive lockdown, which was a good decision, I guess. But of course, afterwards, he had to deal with the problem of the workers who were transferring from one side to the other side, how to deal with it, especially an Indian challenge. We wouldn't have that in Germany that much. But in Germany, we had other problems. People were saying, well, I don't believe in COVID. This is just an invention, whatever. So every country had a different challenge and a different reaction to it. So by and large, every country and continent had to do their own way of fighting it. How do we get out of it?
Today, Germany is India's largest trading partner in Europe.
Yes.
And we also see that in terms of the foreign direct investment in India, Germany is the 7th largest investor in India. Now, in terms of the areas where you see a lot of tangible progress has been done, and plus there are certain areas like you said, new and smart technologies, the environment and resource protection, where there's a lot of scope to further come out with ideas and innovations. Where do you see the scope of this trade and commerce ties panning out?
Yeah, you're right. Put it out that we are the biggest trading partner and economic partner for India in the European Union. The balance between the two countries is about 22 billion euro. It's quite a lot, but of course, given the size of India, there's much more potential. So we could do more to offer good investment conditions. We would need this could be better because we don't have an investment protection agreement yet. We're working on it, and I think this would be one of the main tasks in the future to make it even more attractive for the German international companies to come here.
Germany has been the sort of a torchbearer for the European Union, and European Union has seen quite a few challenges over the years, be it Brexit or be it the post-Brexit trade deal, to say so. India has been looking at expanding its opportunities to make a foray into European Union. How can Germany be sort of helpful partner in facilitating India's ventures into the European Union market?
We are the biggest country in Europe and an economic most powerful, that's true, but we are part of the 28, 27 now. So that's one of the rules, that the smallest and the biggest are just the same there. And so we try what we can do to use our influence to bring things towards a better trade agreement with India. We need, especially in a very competitive, globalized world, we need some kind of agreements with those countries which are close to us, which is India, to enable a better, smoother transfer of these goods and services.
Listeners, we are in conversation with Mr. Walter J. Lindner, the Germany's ambassador to India. Now, in this era of collaboration, partnerships and cooperations, one of the key issues what we have been coming across is how to foster these bonds to areas which really cover the various aspects of what we call multilateralism. The UN Secretary General, in his address to the General Assembly on 75th anniversary last year, he spoke about what he called an inclusive, networked multilateralism is vital for the good governance of the globe. What is your take on this?
You see, a few years ago, there was this initiative by the French Foreign Minister and the German Foreign Minister to create a group of supporters of multilateralism. Call it alliance or call it a group or whatever you want to call it. The reason being for such an initiative was that there is a global tendency of doing things by themselves. But also some other countries in the world who thought they don't have to respect the international way of going forward, but they do it by themselves. Populists or people who say, we don't need this global coordination. We are strongly in favor of multilateralism. Only, these global challenges which we have, be it environmental protection, be it global warming, be it terrorism, be it money laundering, be it fight against poverty. So many issues, they only can be solved together, not by one nation. Not one nation is big enough to do this. We need global framework, and the only global framework which we have is the United Nations. As faulty as it might be, and as many reforms you might need for the UN, but it's the only UN we have, and if we wouldn't have it, we would have to reinvent it, because this is the only body which we have which is truly global. Now we come maybe to the Security Council, which is not truly global, but this is something we wanted to support with this initiative, and India is a member of it, and a very supportive member, because India is also a very strong supporter of multilateral solutions for global problems.
There has been a lot of buzz around this area in terms of the reform. One of the leading think tanks and the many other groups and agencies have come out with a strong case for making G4 nations as amongst the permanent members of UN Security Council. What is your take on this?
The baseline where this all starts from is to see that highest decision-making body in the United Nations system is the Security Council. And as the rest of the United Nations, it was formed in 1948, just right after the Second World War. So the reality it reflects, the membership of the permanent members reflect the situation in 1948. Those were the victorious powers at that time. So at that time there were only 80 or 60 countries in the world, not 192 as we have. But still in the Security Council there is no African country, there is no Latin American country, there is no India. So it's totally unacceptable. A country with 1.4 billion people not being in the Security Council, this is not possible. This is incredible. The composition, the membership of the Security Council is restricted to 5 permanent members. We thought the reputation of the United Nations, the credibility of the United Nations, endangered if we don't reform it rapidly.
India has just assumed the non-permanent membership of UN Security Council. It started this month itself in January. How do you see the role of India in the UN Security Council at present?
I think they are very professional. They have been there. It's their 8th term, so they know what to do. They are professional, and my experience with international bodies where the Indians were present, like in the United Nations, they are extremely well-trained diplomats, so they will do a great job. They know the United Nations, they know their rules books, and they know how to... People are smart in the UN, so if you want to fight for your interests, you have to be smart too. So India, as a huge country, will be in the next few years will be the biggest country in the world, population-wise. A country which is necessary for the solution of all the problems which I mentioned, the global problems, be it the poverty reduction to terrorism, fight against terrorism, and all the environmental issues. This can't be solved without India.
Ambassador Lindner, it brings us to another area of Indo-Pacific. Germany last year released sort of a guidelines or reports pertaining to the Indo-Pacific. We have seen a lot of convergence in the viewpoints of India and Germany on this issue. In the wake of the recent developments and with some of the global powers clamoring for the more territorial stakes or claims and making those kinds of claims, the situation in the Indo-Pacific region has to be something like a secure and peaceful area. How do we look at the future in this area in the wake of these issues?
If you see the Indo-Pacific region, which is the region from here back till the Chinese Sea, this is where half of the population of the world lives. And this is where 40% of the world economy is created. And where out of, I guess, 30 mega cities in the world, 22 are situated. So most of the world trade goes. So this is a very important area. And it is also a very challenging area because you have at least 3 nuclear powers here, from India to Pakistan to China, and maybe North Korea in the first steps to do it. So any disturbance there, any trouble there, any unpeacefulness affects also trade, affects the rest of the world. In a globalized world, where I said 40% of the BGP is produced in this area, it would affect everyone who is in a world trade engaged. So that's why it's our own interest to be more engaged there and to see what we can do to make this area a peaceful, trade-loving area.
It has really been a conversation full of the farsightedness and the innovative spirit, which is quite evident in the context of Germany, to say so. Before we leave our discussion, Mr., we would like to have a few words for our listeners from you in Hindi, if okay with you.
बिल्कुल, मेरी हिंदी बहुत अच्छी नहीं है मैं, लेकिन दिन पर दिन प्रगति सीख रहा हूँ. मुझे उम्मीद है कि एक दिन मेरी हिंदी बहुत अच्छी होगी.
Thanks a lot, Ambassador Lindner. It has been a pleasure talking to you and sparing your valuable time for All India Radio.
It was nice to be on your program, Atulji, and I'm looking forward to our next conversation.
Moving on to sports, in cricket, Bangladesh clinched the 3-match ODI series against West Indies with an emphatic victory in the second ODI played at the Sher-e-Bangla Cricket Stadium in Dhaka on Friday.
Now a quick look at the headlines once again. Myanmar, Mauritius, Morocco and Seychelles receive India-made Covishield vaccine. Prime Minister Narendra Modi says world's largest vaccination drive underway in country is making India self-reliant. India crosses a significant milestone of vaccinating over 1 million healthcare workers. US to seek 5-year extension of New START arms control treaty with Russia. IFFI at Panaji to pay tribute to Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose on his 125th birth anniversary. And in cricket, Bangladesh defeats the West Indies in Dhaka to clinch the ODI series. India is celebrating the 151st birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi. Before we end, let us listen to his favorite bhajan, Vaishnav Janto, by artists from Germany. And with that rendition, We end this bulletin. See you at same time tomorrow with the next edition of World News.